Hey everyone, this is Cynthia with Believer's House, and we are on day 9. Our topic today is finishing well. And the scripture that our topic is, our devotional surrounds, is First Chronicles 17, verse 27. I'm going to go ahead and read it for you. And now it has pleased you to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you, or before you. For you, O Lord, have blessed, and it is blessed forever. So we see here the story of David wanting to build the house of the Lord. He wanted to build a house rather than having God in a tent. God was happy in a tent. Maybe he had put this into David's heart. I'm not quite sure, but David, we know, was a man after God's own heart, and he wanted to honor God, and so he wanted to build God a house. And so he discussed the plans with the prophet Nathan, and Nathan said, "Whatever's in your heart to do, go ahead and do it." So he just made this decision. And as he was leaving, the Lord spoke to Nathan and said, "No, he's not going to be the one to build the house." And so Nathan had to go back and say, "No, you're not the one who's going to build the house. Your son will build the house." And we know that Solomon did eventually build the house of the Lord, and it was beautiful. It was destroyed, but it was very beautiful. And so we see this story in which David, who is this great warrior, and our favorite part, or my favorite part of this, is we know that he was a man after God's own heart, right? That was his how God refers to him as, I know this man, he loves me, and he's a God, he's a man after my own heart. What a great testament for God to say that about David. And so this man, you would think, this man who was after God's own heart would be the choice that God would want to build his house, but he made a different decision. And so can you imagine the disappointment, as our devotional says, of what David must have felt, because he wanted to do something to honor God? How often in our lives do we want to do something for God, and it doesn't work out, or we're directed not to, or it just isn't gonna fly? And how disappointed are we? And are we so disappointed? Is it because we're disappointed for God, or are we disappointed for ourselves because we wanted to do something for God? We don't know what David's motive was, other than he loved God and he was a man after God's own heart. Except for, we see the result of him being told, "No, you're not the one to build the house." Now, David was the king. Could he have built the house anyway? Yes, he could have, but he chose to honor God and obey what the prophet had said. And that's so important, that even though we want to do something that we see as good, do we proceed because it's a good thing, or do we stop and honor God and be in obedience and do what we're supposed to do? So that's the question today. Do we trust God enough, that we're submitted to him enough to honor what he says more than what we want, even when we think it's for the best or it's for a good purpose? I've heard lots of quotes about good can be the enemy of great. And so the interesting topic today in our devotional is that he finished well by not finishing. That was somewhat of our title today. And so it's something that's kind of been rolling around in me, that what in my life do I need to not finish? Are there things that I picked up that God hasn't necessarily appointed me to do, but I've just begun doing them? I have a tendency to do that. I am a starter. I am a runner. I am not a runner physically, but I am a person who does things. And sometimes so much so that they're my things that I choose I want to do, rather than what God would have me do. And so what I'm challenging myself today, what is there in my life that I have picked up that I have decided I need to do for God, but I'm really doing it for me? What are those things that I need to do? And what are those things that I need to let go of? I think those are good questions that we should concern ourselves with, and we should go before the Lord. The Lord has told me so many times in my life that if I would just do what he told me to do, I wouldn't be as tired as I am. right? Because I do a lot more things than what God has told me to do. But see, there will be no reward for those because I'm doing those in the flesh. I'm not doing spiritual things. And so there's a fight within to relax and only do what God has told me to do, and relax and let the rest of it fly. So for those of you who are wired the way that I am, right? I'm a leader. I'm a workhorse. I get things done, which are great qualities. But it's hard for me not to get up and work. It's hard for me to rest in what I know. There's nothing else you can do. You have to let the Lord do it. Or this is not for you to do. This is for someone else to do. So that's an interesting question for me today specifically. And I'm wondering if there are those out there that had this kind of a take on our devotional today, or if they had something else. I'd love to hear your comments. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.